some residents of Westbury in Johannesburg continue to live in fear. This is fear of gangs, a fear of just violence overall, and the violence that especially the gangs perpetrate. Now, residents are taking to the streets tomorrow to protest against the spiraling crime and gangsterism, which has paralyzed the area. And the residents are calling for an end to the violence, to the drug wars, and also calling for a stronger police response. Drugs are believed to be the main reason for the turf wars as rival gangs battle for control of the trade. And to talk to us more about this march that's anticipated for tomorrow, we're joined now by a march organizer, Bishop Dulton Adams. Bishop, good to have you with us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to the Morning Live viewers this morning.
This is one of those very emotive subjects because just coincidentally, there's an article, in fact, it's the front page of the Cape Argus this morning that speaks of 170 people killed in 2 weeks on the Cape Flats and other areas. But the point here is that we seem to have become numb to what is happening in these areas that are riddled with gangsterism, turf wars, and we just seem to continue despite all of these alarming headlines.
You see, the numbness and the zombiness, I can call it that, is perpetuated by not only the communities, but by government itself, by the security cluster, which is supposed to actually be the ones that actually begin to mitigate and challenge what is happening. Westbury, and you talk about Eastern Cape and all the other colored areas, you can replicate. If I sit in Eastern Cape, I'll talk the same thing. If I sit in Western Cape, same thing. In Westbury, the same thing. It's unfortunate. But one needs to demystify the one thing, whether it is a structural challenge or a problem or a cultural problem. And let me put it first to say that it's not cultural. It's not our culture to be involved in drugs. It's not our culture for the killings that is going on. It has been fed by various and myriad challenges over the years. You talk about colonialism, you talk about apartheid, you talk about the apartheid spatial planning, you talk about the unemployment, you talk about poverty. Mahatma Gandhi says the worst form of violence is poverty. And these things exacerbate what's happening there. And the depravity of economics in our communities is a major thing that is luring our young people, because there's no opportunities for them. There's just no opportunities. The unemployment rate in the pocket of Westbury is higher than in most areas in Johannesburg. So the question would be, why is this after generation and generation going on, and there don't seem to be an end or a stop to what is happening and the killings in our area in Westbury?
And as someone who is from Westbury yourself, a child of Westbury, what is your assessment? How do you see this problem?
So, the challenge here is law enforcement is also the challenge in terms of their visibility. So what they do is they come into the area and they convoy. And Saturday I saw the army, three Caspers and 2 police vans. I actually stopped and I asked them, don't you get off? They don't walk around in the community. They don't do search and stop and searches. They don't. I have cried to the premiers, the previous premier, Makura, and now I have asked the Sufi to say ring fence at one stage. Nobody must know, but ring fence Westbury. Westbury is 103 kilometers in circumference. No, not 100, 1.3.
1.3.
1.3. That's how small Westbury is.
Yes.
The population of Westbury.
1.03 to be exact. I actually looked it up.
Yeah. And it's about 13 to 14,000 people that live in a small space like that, overcrowded. The flat land, it's the most flats in Gauteng in one area. These all, helps in terms of the challenges that Westbury faces. The other challenge is demarcation. You have in Westbury 2 wards in that small place, 69 and 82. So you have currently a PA in 82, councillor, and a DA in 69. You had an ANC in 82, and then you had a DA in Ward 69. So even that is a challenge. So what is our cry as the people of Westbury? The cry is, tomorrow is not a it's framed a march, but we're meeting at the Mabaleng Stadium. I have written to the Premier officially as the chair of chairs in the Gauteng legislature. I have written to the chairperson of the portfolio committee, Dr. Mandela Masuku of Community Safety. I have asked them to come to the community. And I'm saying this to the Premier with respect. He has never been to Westbury. And he is the first citizen of the province. And I'm making an appeal to him. I didn't know this interview was going to happen. I was called. He needs to come with his security clusters. They have the plan. They have the plan to stabilize that community. And then they have the plan to invest in Westbury. There's no investment whatsoever. In the IDP process that was done recently, the stadium was broken down. It was stolen, the whole stadium. Can you believe it, in Westbury? The historical stadium that we had and played soccer there and had our athletic schools and stuff there. Do you know that on the IDP report, it says Westbury will not get a stadium because the people broke the stadium. That is an official statement. And it's not the people. It was organized by community leaders. And I don't want to go live on television, but we are going to investigate. There's people who were in office in that communities. Because how, Sakina, could the community themselves, with cranes and trucks, take, Union Stadium, how could they have stolen that stadium? So it must have been some organized cartel that stole our stadium. So we have a challenge of facilities, a challenge of unemployment, of poverty, a challenge of corruption in the police service, a challenge of just the people having no hope for themselves. And these are the challenges that we face in Westbury.
Let me add one very controversial other to the list that you've mentioned. We also have a challenge of moral decay. Because the reality, Bishop Dulton, coming from Westbury, coming from an area like Eldorado Park, whether you go to Reiger Park on the East Rand, whether you go to Wentworth in Durban, whether you go to the northern areas of Port Elizabeth, it doesn't matter where you go, as you say, it's the same story over and over again. And we've got to get real with this problem, because the reality is these are our children, these are our husbands, fathers, grandfathers who are perpetrating these crimes. Everybody knows in a Westbury that's just over 1 square kilometer, where you have less than 20,000 people, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows who is doing what. And that is the reality that we have to face up to.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I want to put the plea, and I don't want to blame anyone, but I want to put the plea squarely at the Premier's doorstep. I really want to. I've come here this morning to say to the Premier, in fact, I want the community. The community must create an algorithm in social media. They are also too quiet. And like you said in your introductory speech this morning as we started, that there's silence. Everybody's accepting it. Everybody is just saying, "Laat God's water oor God's akker vloei."
Oor God's akker loop.
Yeah.
But I hear that, and I'm with you. The government has to shoulder some of the responsibility. No two ways about that. The police are complicit. No two ways about that. But the community itself is complicit here. When your 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old comes home with a gun, what are you saying? When your 16, 17, 18-year-old suddenly has a car tomorrow, they haven't worked a day in their life, they're supposed to be in school. What are you saying as a parent? When your 20-year-old suddenly becomes the breadwinner, but has never had a job a day in his life, surely we as the community are part of the problem. Before we take it externally, we need to look at ourselves, hold that mirror up to ourselves. And I say ourselves because I come from one of these communities.
No, 100% correct. 100%. The community must take some kind of responsibility, and not wholly and totally. Let me talk to you about the two tales of Westbury. There is a force for good in Westbury, and there's a force for bad. In my view, growing up in Westbury, and still are actively involved in Westbury, Sakina, the force for good is not being magnified. It is the force for bad, and media plays that role also, where the force for bad is being magnified. We have a tournament running currently. It's called the GPL Cup in Westbury. In Westbury, the shootings happen all around it. But there is people who want to see Westbury change. And one needs to make the call tomorrow, to your point exact, that this thing that children can just immediately wear brand clothing, they have money, they can put bread on the table. It's wrong that nobody holds them accountable, and it's the parents. In our youth, we have a youth about close to 80, in a church youth. A census was made, a survey was made to youth. Only 5 of those members of the youth grow up with both their parents. Can you believe that? So that is a major challenge that we are facing. So we are saying tomorrow as we gather together to say, I don't want to take to the street and march from one point to the other point and go and give a memorandum to the police. We've done that umpteenth times.
Exactly.
Umpteenth times. It's a waste of time to say it. We need an holistic approach, a sit down. Everybody needs to see, all the stakeholders that you and I are discussing this morning, government included. The Premier needs to spearhead that. And I want to stress that point. And I spoke to him on a Friday. I said, Premier, I would want you to come and address the people of Westbury. What is the plan?
But it cannot be business as usual.
Can't
You
be.
cannot be having the same conversations that you've had ad nauseum. What needs to happen is there needs to be alternatives. There needs to be some form of protection for those who are willing to step up and blow the whistle on the forces for evil, as you say. There has to be alternatives for these children, because this is what they fall into, because they don't see any alternative for themselves, for their lives. So those things need to be put in place, Bishop.
Yeah, 100% correct. The Premier said in his State of the Province address, now I sit in the legislature, and he mentioned helicopters and cars and panic buttons, and he mentioned CCTV and quite a number of things. Those things have not reached that community. Hence, I said earlier on, the investment. And some people might be thinking I'm targeting the Premier. He is the solution. He is supposed to spearhead it in that community. We are there to assist him, all of us. We all want to take our hands together to say, how do we get the police? How do we get the community and stakeholders? How do we get government with the Economic Development Department, Social Development, etc., all the different departments in Gauteng legislature and the city of Johannesburg to make sure that we have a concentrated longevity plan, a sustainable plan. This thing that the minister, former minister Becky Tele comes twice, it's not going to help. The Premier cannot come, or the mayor cannot come and just speak to the people. That's not going to help. We're not asking for that. We're asking for tomorrow. Let it be the start of a new dawn. Sorry to use the president's phrase there. But it's the start of a new dawn for Westbury. It can be the start of a new dawn. And this is the hope that I have. So I'm not calling your traditional march, the burning of tires, which I don't believe in, burning of infrastructure, throwing of stones and rubber bullets and tear gas. I'm not talking about that. I'm a peace-loving citizen. I love my people. I want us to say, hashtag so kan dit nie aangaan nie. And that is the message I want to bring across, not only for Westbury, but for all our areas. Yeah. The multiplied forces, you talk about having more police and more CPWs and JMPD, all of them. We have enough budget. We have enough police force, to be honest with you, to manage that 1.3 kilometer area of less than 20,000 people.
Are
I
people
believe.
going to come out tomorrow, Bishop?
Yes,
Because
they are
people are
definitely.
scared, as you
No.
say. Not that they don't believe in the good fight, but they're scared of victimization. You know, that's another obstacle, a hurdle that you
Yeah.
face.
No, I think people are tired. I think people are looking at the social media trends, and that is what spurred me, because the shooting happens ad nauseum. It happens continuously. There's people dying during the day. So I think I'm making an appeal to the people of Westbury to say, firstly, go on social media. Use your phones. Everybody has phones. Influence the algorithm there to say to whoever, we want you there tomorrow. We want you to come and assist, because we must work out a plan, Sakina. This is my plea. What is the plan? We cannot leave there tomorrow without having started a plan to eradicate the killings, the drugs, and the violence. The other thing is, when you look at the drug trade and the gangsterism trade, they have economics. They are cartels. They have millions of rands. Us puny little organizations cannot compare to that.
Yeah, and the problems are much deeper. You know, we'll follow on this discussion tomorrow, because the economics that you speak about is the same money that would be generated from selling drugs to our children on the streets. It's the same money that is offered to parents to bury their very children, to send children to school that tomorrow will be turned into drug runners. It's a vicious cycle. But this, of course, is a march taking place tomorrow, and Bishop Dulton Adams leading and calling for that Westbury march. He's the organizer, and it's taking place tomorrow, a march against gangsterism and drug dealing in Westbury.